turn around and serve you with divorce papers immediately. Separation is a means of reconciliation in the Bible. In 1 Corinthians 7, you separate for a time of prayer to get back together again. And so the whole idea of separation maritally is to separate, to deal separately with problems so that you can get back together again. But if you separate from a spouse, that spouse might view that as an act of hostility and say, see, you don't want to stay married to me, and then use it against you all of your life and say, well, you left me first. Well, that's what this chump of a guy did. And then he went and got another girlfriend right away, and it was just a horrible, wretched mess, leaving this woman in a wreck. And so she used a method against her. And so when she thinks about separation, or hears about that, guess what she feels? Pain and guilt associated with that. Anger and bargaining. Anger and bargaining. This is where people are just amygdala spiking everywhere. It's not fair. It's not. It's not right. It's not. It's really painful. It is. I usually disagree with people. Yes, you're right. Yes, you're right. How could I know? I know. Yes, you're right. Remember, God loves you, and I'm handing you friendship back. I will go visit you in prison. Yes, I know this is hard. Yes, I will. And I don't really try to direct. What I am is I'm kind of like the banks of a river, and the river's starting to flood. And at some point, you can wipe out a whole town, or you can maybe get the rock wall. And I try to be that rock wall that says, okay, you can hit me with this, but you're not going to ruin my pastures. So, I'm not going to jump in and be a part of this, but I'm going to certainly say, yes, yes, I see your pain. I understand that. I know. And what I tell people is, you can just be mad at me. I'm an elder at a megachurch, and I have an old gentleman. His name's Garrett. I love him. He's so much fun. He is 80 years old this year, and he does not always appreciate everything the way that we do it, which I understand, because I don't always like everything the way we do it either. And so he was complaining to me about the way that we were doing baptisms, because we don't always take a confession of faith in the microphone for everybody to hear. Sometimes that's done in front of everybody, but it's done during songs. And we let people decide. Sometimes we stop everything, sometimes we don't. Then he was fussing with me about that. He said, this is just not right. Everybody just needs to hear this. And it's like, well, Garrett, this is not about you. I mean, I love him. I mean, we've gone through this. And I put my arm, he's like this tall. And I said, Garrett, just remember, we are in this together, and this is not all about you or me, this is about them. And it doesn't really matter, because you and I are friends for a lifetime. He asked me to do his funeral after I made him cry when he complained to me, and I said, what you really think, I really care about that. I can't just turn the whole church around and do what one person wants, but I care about you. And then he said, will you do my funeral? Because he didn't feel cared about. So here's what I want you to know. When you hear this anger and this bargaining, and you turn around and you hand friendship, I'll tell you, you have so many friends that you won't know what to do with. People will love you to death. Because what do people usually get when you hand out anger? You get anger back. Number 4 is depression, reflection, and loneliness. Okay. Does the word addiction mean anything to you? In 3 and 4. Anger and bargaining. I mean, remember, halt. This is hard, this is deep, this is painful. Remember, it has to get worse before it gets better, because now you have to deal with it. I mean, those of you with life on you, you understand this process. You hate it, like I do, but you have got to go through the valley in order to get through the other side. And so, those pictures right there, this is when you're friends. This is when you go after the lost sheep. With this anger business right there and bargaining, sometimes I don't go. I just say, hey, don't do something stupid. I'll come visit you in the county lockup. But don't do something stupid. You can call me, but don't do something stupid. Here, I'll go find you. Because guess what an outcome of depression is? Suicide. Suicide. And so I will go and find you on this one. And so I just kind of watch this and I go, okay, I don't want that swirling vortex just going all crazy on me, but I recognize the difference between I'm going to shove you away and I'm going to hurt you versus I'm so miserable right here that I don't really know what to do. I can go sit next to you on the floor. And I can say, talk to me some more about it. Because the number one way you prevent suicides is by getting somebody to talk about how they're feeling and then say to them, are you thinking about how life isn't worth living? And when they say yes, you have just prevented another potential suicide. You can't be afraid of it. Because people today look at suicide as a good thing. It's a good option. I can get out of this place and do something else or be annihilated or whatever. I don't even want to think about it. I just want to get out of here. And so if you can talk about it and you're not afraid about it, the more somebody talks about a potential suicide, the less likely it is that they're going to do it. Because you also ask them, will you promise me that you won't hurt yourself without calling me? You have to call me first, and then you have to wait for me. And if somebody says, no, I don't promise you that, then that's where you have to begin considering getting them help immediately. But most of the time people say, yeah, I'm just kind of sounding off. Okay, well you can just tell me every day you want to kill yourself, and I'll joke about shooting our brains out. Because that's one of my jokes. I just feel like shooting my brains out today. And when you're around somebody like that, they understand that that is, you're just really stressed out. But would I ever get a gun and shoot my brains out? No, I'll tell you that. But you know how we talk. Number 5, this is the upward turn. This is really cool. It's dark before the dawn, right there. And so now what we have is it's gonna move forward. Now you can get kicked around on this thing, but it's gonna move forward. And you keep saying, you keep going back to it's moving. So when I work with people that have been really depressed, and then they feel really bad again, they say, I'm just going back to square one. I say, no, you're on square number 55. It just feels like one. But you're actually going to start on 55. And right now you're having an amygdala spike. Right now you're overreacting. Right now it seems like everything is happening again, but you're really in much better shape than what you were even 3 months ago. And that's so important for people because all they can see is what's in front of them. I also have another statement that I use. It's called diming. Randy Garris is a preacher down at College Heights, and he was broadcasting his sermons for a number of years, and I happened to catch a little bit of it when we got home early one day, and he said that if you take a little dime and you hold it up to the night sky in a black area where you can't see any stars, you will actually obscure 10,000 galaxies if you were to put the Hubble telescope in that area, because you just can't see it. But if you take that dime and you bring it closer and closer and closer until it goes right in front of your eye, you will obscure over hundreds of thousands of galaxies, and it is just a little dime. And what he was talking about was a problem. The problem is divorce. And yes, you can't see the blessings in your life when there's a divorce. You can't see the good things, which is what the stars represent. And when you fixate on that thing and you get it right here, and all you can see is the bad thing, you can't see anything else except maybe a couple little things out of the peripheral side, but you've got that dime right there. The dime has to hang in time and space in the right place. Divorce has to be in the right place. It is painful, it is tragic, but when it's right here and it's all you see, then it is horrible, absolutely horrible. And there are times, of course, that it gets right here. I understand that. And if you're with a friend and they're making progress and all of a sudden, there it is again, you need to say, okay, let's just kind of talk. Go ahead, and it's okay to have a rough day. Remember the Peter Buckland rule, you can have a bad day. You can have a bad day, but if you have 2 bad days, we're going to talk about it. You can have a bad day. Even with my friends, go ahead, have a bad day. Have a bad day on us. Let's go eat something. Let's go eat some comfort food and have a bad day. And I had a guy that broke up with his girlfriend recently and then got back together again because he felt like he got afraid of commitment. He was all miserable and wretched. And I went and visited with him. He's like 30, and an emergency meeting with him, and he was just like, cried a little bit. And this is like 3 days old. And he was just like feeling really wretched. Well, by the time that I got done with him, he was smiling and his eyes were dancing a little bit. We'd driven around town and I got something to eat and drink and was making some jokes with him, and he felt better. Now I'm sure that when he left, he went right back down again. But the power of a relationship is so incredibly important for him to know. Number one, he's not alone. Number two, there are some other good things that are going on in his life. And then this one, what does that one say? I can't read it from here. Reconstruction and working through. Yeah. You're going to rebuild your new life. You're going to rebuild your new life. And this is where the church comes in. This is what we're best at right here. What do you want to do? I mean, we're okay at listening to people, but we should really know how to live. Don't you think so? We should really know how to live and live well. And that's what we want to do here, is help people to do that. And then you finally have hope with that. So when you're looking at this, you can even identify where people might be located. Now, what I have coming up here are, oh, that's the thing that I told you about there, is specific things that you can do. And I figured that we'd run out of time, so I just have these listed out for you in case we can't get to them all. Number one, it's common for children to blame themselves for their parents' divorce. And so you just need to know that you can ask the question, do you feel responsible? And the answer will sometimes be, yeah, I do. I should have been a better boy, I should have been a better girl, I should have been a better son, should have been a better daughter. I shouldn't have said, I hate you, because then he left 2 days later, and I know he did it in part because I said that. And you have to work with people about taking on that ownership. Remain in contact with children or teens after the divorce, regardless of their openness or housing arrangements. If you have a child in the church, in fact, I want to recommend that each one of you, if you are able, you get involved in the children or teen ministry of the church in some way to know somebody, especially if you don't have kids at home, those of you that are older, because if these kids leave the church because of divorce or death or something, and you can communicate with them, that will be really, really meaningful. And it's even better than having a minister do it, because a minister is supposed to. Right? That's why we pay him. Sit around and write letters to people all day long. And do Facebook and email because, you know, he's supposed to be nice to me. But when a regular church person knows a kid or is involved in some way, and then there's a contact made there, that's going to be really, really significant. And actually has more bang for the buck than having a paid professional do it. And then parents who cooperate with each other about their children have children who cope better with divorce. You might have heard about that. When moms and dads are fighting and fussing, kids actually do worse. The myth of the mature teen, I just want you to know that there's no such thing. When it comes to divorce, there's no such thing as a mature teen that can handle it. So sometimes parents will wait until their kids are older or more mature and they intended to divorce years ago and now they do it. It's just equally as devastating. Remember, every indicator goes down. So if you have friends who say, you know, my kids are older and they can handle it better, look them in the face and say, no, they won't. No, they won't. And they'll look at you and go, no, no, they will. No, they won't. Research says, throw them the research. Research says, you can go find this online, you can find it anywhere, and what will happen is that somebody will want to exempt themselves from the law of sowing and reaping. And I look at people straight in the face and say, there are no exemptions. There are no exemptions. You can think that you're exempt. There are no exemptions. And you are not an exception to the law of sowing and reaping. It will happen to your family. And what happens is when people do something, they say, I didn't really expect this result. Here's what I want you to know. If you're divorce counseling people, tell them they will not be able to predict the full consequences of their divorce, positively and negatively. And it's the negative consequences that will shock them. So when somebody's having an affair and they go move in with the person, all of a sudden there's a whole bunch of consequences that they never thought of. Because they're so focused on the relationship. In fact, they're drunk on love is what it is. I mean, there's an actual drug in your body called oxytocin. And when you have oxytocin, that's the love chemical. And an affair is what fills you with that love chemical. And you're actually an addict to oxytocin, which is why when you're in an affair, you do all kinds of crazy things. You try to meet at certain times because your amygdala is flaring and you're lonely and you're depressed. And you go to this person, it's always so perfect and so great. I'm working with a guy right now that did that years ago, married the woman that he had an affair with, and now this woman is just viciously angry at him. And he can't figure out what to do or how to make things better. He's right back in the very same position he was in his first marriage, and it is shocking to him. And I'm just going, thought you got stupid off your forehead. He is a Christian marriage and family therapist. On his second marriage. Law of sowing and reaping has no exemptions whatsoever. And it's shocking what the results will be, which is really fascinating. And if you have a story like that, that's when you share it. That's when you share those stories. You just say, hey, this can happen to you. No, it won't. Yeah, it will. Yeah, it will. One last little story with that. We got to quit here. I have so many stories. There's a guy I'm working with, same-sex attraction. Father died, stepfather, really rough situation. He's now 20, and his parents called me in to talk to him, and he's just very belligerent. If you want to think of the word militant, that's what he is. And so his parents had me talk to him, and so I just looked at him, and I'll call his name Peter. That's my all-purpose dysfunctional male word, because that's my name. I said, Peter, there are no exceptions. This will happen to you. He said, no, I will stay celibate until I marry a man, and I will have the most fantastic life. Well, he is not celibate. And he is super depressed. And he is becoming a teenage alcoholic. How do I know this? Because we have a young lady who's living with us, dealing with same-sex attraction issues, who had a conversation with him recently, like last week. And he viciously attacked her because she's living in our house. And she is the anomaly. She's getting out of it. And he can't understand why somebody can get out of it. Because he's bought the Kool-Aid. He's drank the Kool-Aid. No, no, this is genetic. I just will give myself to this. And he admitted to her that he's becoming an alcoholic. So if you're so happy, and you're so with it, and you're so celibate, and you're going to find just the perfect person, then your whole life ought to be more phenomenal than a Christian's life. Yes? Yes? You can all nod your head. Yeah. Yeah, you can. And that's the same thing with divorce. It's the same thing with all these issues. And so when you're looking at this, there's no myth that it's going to be great and good and everybody can handle it. This is really rough stuff. Number 5. It's not necessarily true that adolescents, by virtue of their age, are better equipped to cope with divorce. The issue is support. Teenagers need a lot of support. You are part of that support. This is why I don't throw somebody away who's having an amygdala spike. I just go, yeah, you're spiking. I mean, call it what it is. Oh, you're having a spike today. Oh, you're having a hijack. Oh, yeah, you're having a bad day. And I work really hard at not personalizing your bad behavior, because you're not even in your right mind. You don't even know that you're being as mean and cruel, because you won't even remember the words that you used. Because when your amygdala gets going, you don't remember. You just don't. And so I need to know, I put you in a category. You are an unhealthy person because your parents are divorcing. You are an unhealthy friend because you're divorcing your spouse. And I can't count on you to be reliable. I can't count on you to be sane. I can't count on you to be consistent. What I can count on you is swirling vortex of weirdness and amygdala spikes. That's when I can count on. So if I can create the right understanding, then I can actually handle you better. Number 6, for parents, expect your kids to be ticked. Expect them to be mad at you, at the world, at God, at the church, everywhere. It's diffused anger all over the place. This is why, as a church, we don't look at anger. We look through the anger to the hurt person, and I look at people and I say, you should be mad. You should be mad. Because you're not living the life that you really would like to live, that everybody said was possible, and it's okay for you to be angry that that has happened to you. And they'll go, really? Yeah, but you have to handle your anger in the most productive way. You have to handle it in the most productive way.